In this episode, we're going to look at a rather complex Sansui D45 automatic turntable that is non-functional. This is a relatively complex computer-controlled automatic turntable. Let's check it out. Here I have a Sansui D45 direct drive turntable. Came from the same place that Fisher 170 came from. Buddy of mine bought it off Facebook. The guy gave him the turntable. Said, here's a turntable. You can have this with the Fisher. Says it's broken and it needs to be fixed. So let's see what's wrong with it. Looks like the anti-skate weight has come off of it and it was packaged with it. So this is the anti-skate weight. This anti-skate weight fits in the back here. I have to glue it back in place, it looks like, but it goes in the end of the tone arm here. Basically sticks out like this. What it does is you adjust the anti-skate by moving this little weight back and forth. What it does is as the tone arm moves across the record, it lifts the weight up, and that weight provides a little bit of back tension. So basically what's happened is it snapped off, and we're going to glue it back on like that, so that the anti-skate will work. And then we'll put a tone arm, I'll put a cartridge on this. It doesn't have a cartridge on it or a head shell, so I'm going to stick one of my own head shells on there, and we're going to test it out and see if it works. And this might be a nice turntable. It's direct drive, so you know there's no belts or anything to replace on it. It could be a very nice turntable. It's got a slip mat on here. It looks like somebody was using this thing for, you know, they got a slip mat underneath here. That's typically someone who's been using it for DJ so that they can, you know, have the thing playing and slip the record. Mix up some JB Weld. Just stick a little piece of tape on here so that I can just use this to mix it on. We don't need much, just the tiniest amount. We'll mix that up, use that to re-secure the counterweight. So this is JB Weld. It's a very strong epoxy that has a metal compound in the resin, and you basically mix the resin with the hardener, which creates a chemical reaction which will cause it to set up in a few minutes. And then we're just going to put a little tiny bit onto the end of the broken piece. And then take the broken piece and set it into, just remove that right now so I don't get it on anything. We're going to set up this broken piece, put it back where it belongs, and we're going to have to hold this in place for a few minutes, so I'll do that off camera just to make this set up. Alright, the glue has now set up. How you set this is you move this up for, depending on how many grams of force you want to have as your anti-skating. So then when the tone arm is moving across the record, it lifts that weight up, just like that, and that's your anti-skate. And then, just like that. Okay, that part's done. Next, we'll plug the unit in, see if it rotates, and then if it does, we check the speed, make sure it's rotating up to the correct speed. If everything's good in that respect, then we'll put a cartridge on. And power. Okay, power's on. This has a strobe on it, so I won't even need to use an app or anything. Will it turn on? Oh, wait a minute. I got to start it here. I guess I got to do that. Okay, there it's going. It is running. And it is running up to speed. Now this one here was an automatic direct drive turntable. So I don't know whether the auto is working on it or not. It probably will work as a manual turntable. But let's see here. If I hit the up down button, will it lift or not? Let's see, start. This may have problems in the logic circuit. The guy that got this got it for free. So what we don't know is what the fault is with it, but it definitely does have a problem. So I guess next step is to take the unit apart, see if we can see why it's not working. But it doesn't, like when I turn it on, it doesn't try to move the arm. This should automatically move the arm over and then like raise and lower it. It's not doing anything. So the automatic function of this unit is not working. So this one does have to be taken apart. Again, I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know whether the guy that owns it wants to spend, I don't think he wants to spend any money on this one. This one I believe also used, I think this was special sensors. It had actually had a special, if I'm not mistaken, this had a special rubber platter that had slats in it to detect the record size. It uses a photo control. Shines a light beam from either out from here into the tower, or I think from here, and it picks up the light as it goes by. Pretty sure that's how this one works. Let's just check under the turntable here itself, under the platter. So there are sensors right here to detect the size of the record that we've put on it. So it should automatically, if there's a 45 put on it, that's if you've got the right mat. It would detect the smaller size, but it should automatically not see any light because we've got a black mat on it. It should automatically try to play a full-size record, but it's not. If we turn on night shot, we can certainly see that the infrared emitter is blasting out an infrared signal. So that portion's working, but we got to open up the bottom and see what's inside, see whether we can get this one running. I'm not holding my breath that we can, possibly, but likely not, and more likely not for the guy that owns it because he got it for free. So this one might just be going in the trash bin, depending on what's wrong with it. Or he may abandon it and give it to me and say, keep it. Only one way to find out though, remove the bottom. Here's the inner workings of this unit. How this automatic system works is there's a sensor underneath here. It's an optical sensor. So when you push the button, you'll see that the motor is turning. Now this is trying to turn the tone arm back to its rest position so that the system knows where it is. If it doesn't read the sensor, doesn't know where the tone arm is so that it can start to move the arm out into position, it doesn't know what's going on and it'll time out. We can probably check this sensor if I remove the top cover, but I've just kind of stuck on it right now just so that I can work on it. But if I lift the top cover off, I'm going to prop it up on boxes so I can move the tone arm manually, and we should be able to see the signals coming off of the sensor, the pickup. They'll show up here on this plug. I should be able to scope and see pulses as I move the tone arm back and forth. If I put my scope on, I'll scope the yellow wire here and see if I'm getting any input. So there it is. See, when I move the arm, I am getting feedback. How about from the brown wire? I don't know which wires do which. And this is the orange wire. brown wire is probably ground, and the red wire will be my hot. So there's two sensors on here. One gives me feedback there, as you can see. I'm getting feedback. The other one's giving me feedback off this other pickup. So we know that the optical sensor is working. And this is where I'm scoping. As I move the arm back and forth, I'm seeing signal from both the orange and the yellow wire. The orange wire pulses when I get to where the position of the record would start. So it's high when the arm is in the rest position. It moves low, and then when we get to where the start of the record would be, it moves high again. And if I were to continue to move the arm across the record further, I'm sure I would see even more. Yeah, and when I get to the end of the record, I see another high pulse. And what about this one? And this one stays low from the time the arm is lifted all the way to the end of the record. So the yellow wire indicates when the record is at the home position. The orange wire indicates when the tone arm is in the position to drop the arm. Now there's also a clutch on here which is used to raise and lower the cueing arm. It does that by reversing the direction of the motor. I think I need to remove the mechanism control servo to investigate below it and see why it's not engaging, because it's not attempting to raise or lower the arm. So this is held in place by a couple screws, and this assembly should lift off. I'm probably going to find broken plastic pieces inside here. It's more than likely what the problem is. There's a switch here and a cam. See, when it operates, it should move this cam to raise the arm and activate these switches. But this is not turning. When the motor turns, this is not turning. This piece turns, but it's not turning. This one is slipping. There's a magnet that pulls it in place. You see, magnet will pull it down. There's a solenoid here, which releases the clutch. This should be now turning the arm, because this is pushed. This solenoid is released. So it should be making contact with the rubber here, which is on the arm, turning the arm, but this piece is not turning. When I operate the mechanism, you'll see the gear below here turns. This is supposed to turn with it, and it's slipping right in here. That's part of the problem. The rubber is worn out here that grips and turns this copper disc, which is the clutch that should be turning this gear, but it's not. This is linked through to this gear, and it doesn't slip itself. It turns. It's slipping right on here. When I take a look at the actual spring and the clip itself, or the rubber friction grip here, which comes off the end of this, as it should if I break the paint seal. What I'm doing is I'm turning the rubber. It's got a rubber two washers. I'm turning them over because one side of it is worn, hoping that by turning it over I will create enough friction It might aid it in turning. Of course, this is spring loaded. There's a spring on the other side pushing these pieces together. So hopefully by turning it over, I will increase the friction enough that it will actually turn this assembly. Try to get the little clip back on here again without it flying off. Okay, I wonder if I'm going to have enough torque now for this to try to turn the assembly. Let's see here. Will it turn this gear when I push the button? Aha! It's turning it now. And it is now turning the cam on this side, you see? This is now trying to turn the arm. The arm should signal that it's back at home. Okay, so I push the button. Now it's turning, whereas before it wasn't. I wonder if that's all it needs. I guess we'll find out. I'll put the arm back together and see whether it tries to move it. I've got the unit reassembled. What I've done is I turned the two rubber washers over so that the worn part is facing out and in, and the unworn surface is gripping the copper disc. Let's turn the unit over and see if it tries to move the arm now. So I don't have a head shell on there, so I'm just going to have to kind of hold the arm down, see whether it tries to move the arm. If it tries to move the arm in, then we've made progress. Or even if the lift tries to pick the arm up. Oh, look at that. It's moving in. Okay, let's try this now with the actual platter on, because obviously the light sensors aren't going to work if there's no turntable on or no platter on to cover the sensors up. So if I hit the start button, it moves over and then it will drop the arm and the record should start to play. And if I move the tone arm over to the other end to indicate that the record's at the end of its travel, it should pick the arm up and return it back, which it is. I do believe I have got this unit functional, and then stop. So I'm just going to lock the arm in place. I'm going to put the bottom on. We'll put a pickup on this and then see if it works. Yeah, that's the way it goes on. Okay, let me get the screws in. I just set up another modulator in my media closet with another off-air tuner so that I can pick up a few more stations that I can't normally get with my existing antenna. For my off-air TV, I get all the local channels, but with the new antenna that I put up, it's pointing a different direction. I'm pulling in stations off of another more distant more distant TV transmitter, distant TV tower. So I found a couple of new stations. So I've been, because they're just standard definition, they're not HD channels, they're just standard definition channels anyway. So I've been putting them on an analog modulator and feeding them into the shop here where I only have a regular TV. So I've been enjoying a couple new channels in here while I've been working. It's quite amazing the amount of channels I can pull in off the air. It's almost not worth it to have cable. Have cable just to keep the wife happy. Okay, this one's together. I'll put the platter back on, dig up a cartridge, and see if this thing works. I get the sneaking suspicion that this is why they had this slip mat on here, wasn't so much because they wanted a slip mat, it's because these little sensors poke up and they make the rubber warped. So someone put that on there just to try to make it lie flat. Alright, I got the cartridge loaded, kind of balanced. Speed. Right on. Lift. And drop. We'll stop it. That works. Start it up again. We'll let this play right through to the end. I'll help it along. I guess some glue when I did the glue treatment on this, a little bit still in the groove, so I gotta redo it again, I guess, but and it should pick up now that it's at the end of the record, and it picks up, takes it back, and stops. And if I hit the repeat button, this side of the record, of course, hasn't been treated, so this will be a crackle and snap and pop. If I put the repeat on, if I put repeat on this, it should repeat the side over again. And it will pick up now. It should go back and should go all the way back to home and then come back and start again, which it just did. This one's fixed. Although the guy that got this got it as a freebie. The repair on this is not going to be a freebie because if we look at what time it is now, I've been on this thing for a couple of hours taking this thing all apart, figuring out what was wrong with it. But now you guys know what goes wrong with these units. I'll stop it. There we go. I think this one's good. Run it one more time, just to be sure. But I think this one's ready to go. It's an overly complex turntable. It actually doesn't have as much value as it could because it doesn't have the right mat, so it won't operate with 7-inch records because it can't detect them. Everything will be detected as a 12-inch record, so If you try to play 45s on this without the proper rubber mat, it's going to drop the needle right on the platter and rip the diamond out of the end of the cantilever. Anyway, yeah, this one looks like it's working. Say it's an overly complex design, but now you know what goes wrong with them. That clutch starts to slip on them. The belt could also go bad, but in this case the belt was fine. It was just the clutch itself was slipping, and of course this little anti-skate arm was broken off of it. Anyway, this one's done. Gotta remove my ion cartridge. This is brand new. I've got one of those. It was given to me. Ion turntable, the USB turntable that was purchased by someone who wanted to, I guess, digitize their records, and they never got around to it. They never used it. They bought the unit and unpacked it and never used it and gave it to me, and I've never used it either. But it's got, at least it's got a cartridge on it that was compatible with this one. Anyway, that's it for this video. This was a Sansui D45 fully automatic turntable. It's up and running. Thanks for watching.